It's been more than 2 weeks since the war between Israel and Hamas began. And as the conflict rages on, so does protests across the globe. In Africa, though, the demonstrations have had a mixed bowl of support for Palestinians being bombarded by Israel, and some African leaders being accused of piggybacking on the demos for political gain. Case in point, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah El-Sisi, who is facing an election next year. Some critics argue that if the protests continue, they could turn out to be the second Arab Spring. Here's a report.
Protests in solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza took place in several Muslim countries and beyond, with demonstrators calling for an end to Israel's blockade and airstrikes. Thousands of people rallied in North African countries. Throughout various capitals, Palestinian flags were flying alongside Algerian, Moroccan, Libyan and Tunisian flags, as demonstrators held marches broadcast on public and private television channels. But in Africa, it's not only the Muslim nations in the north that are rallying behind Palestine. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators, led by South Africa's ruling African National Congress, held protests at the Israel embassy in the capital, Pretoria.
Free, free Palestine!
The ANC has expressed its solidarity with the Palestinian people, emphasizing their long relationship dating back to the days of the racial policy of apartheid implemented by the white minority government.
When you are oppressed, the only option you have is to fight. And that's what Hamas is doing. They are fighting for their freedom. Mandela did the same thing, took up the guns and fought for the freedom of the people of South Africa. When you are oppressed, you only have one option.
Hundreds in the Horn of African nation of Somalia joined many of their South and North African counterparts in their call to support the Palestinian cause.
We organized peaceful demonstrations supporting and reciting Quran and praying for our brothers in Palestine, in Gaza, that the whole world may be against what is going on in Gaza.
In Egypt, however, the protests had their twists and turns. Critics say President Abdel El-Sisi's administration has been organizing stage protests to rally support for his embattled government by piggybacking on public sympathy for Palestinians as the death toll from Israel's war on the Gaza Strip keeps rising. The demonstrators ultimately started marching towards a symbolic place in the history of Egypt's protest movements, Tahrir Square. The 2011 Arab Spring protests converged there, culminating in the removal of then-President Hosni Mubarak. The protest coincided with Egypt holding a summit on the Gaza crisis, amid growing fears of a wider war in the Middle East. The Cairo Peace Summit brought together officials from Arab and European countries. But the fact that the US and Israel did not send top officials dampened expectations.
Egypt affirms and reiterates its complete rejection of the forced displacement of Palestinians and their exodus to the Egyptian territories in Sinai.
Despite the accumulated fury across the continent, most of the aid to Gaza is ironically from African nations like Egypt, Tunisia and Morocco. Trucks carrying aid have crossed from Egypt into war-torn Gaza since the disputed Rafah crossing was opened. More aid is expected to flow in as Israel intensified strikes on the Palestinian enclave in the war sparked by Hamas's bloody attack. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.